I'll be breaking this video into sections to keep this more organized. If you want to skip to any section, just use the timestamp below. Now, to avoid wasting more time, let's get started. Opening thoughts. Kokou no Hito is a fantastic psychological story about a boy in high school that finds his passion for something that reignites his life. This isn't a feel-good story, and it is not an easy road. This is a seinen, and although it gets pretty ridiculous at times, it is very much grounded in reality, considering it's based on a true story. Consequences exist, and while reading this manga, I couldn't help but compare it to the likes of Gantz or Jagan. Not only because of the art, but because of some of the terrible people in it, but that's for a little later. The art here is a mixture of realistic and surreal imagery, heavily focusing on dark lines and beautiful artwork. We're not exactly to Berserk levels, but man, sometimes it feels close. I know that I'm going to be condemned for that one. The imagery used is sometimes very abstract, and this is often used to give the reader a feeling of what it's like for the characters throughout this manga. Of course, Mori is our protagonist, so he gets the most screen time, and he's the person we'll follow for pretty much 95% of the story. This ride is really just watching a young man grow up as he fights his way through his own psychological issues through a long 10-year journey from the age of 18 to 28. Really, other than the abundant amount of assholes throughout the story, the main antagonist is Mori himself. His worst enemy is the person he is or doesn't want to be. It's honestly very relatable and inspiring, and I don't think this is a manga that will change my life, but it's definitely something I needed to read around this moment in time with everything going on. Did I mention that this is a manga about rock climbing, or specifically mountain climbing? Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. Kokou no Hito, which stands for Solitary Person or The Climber, is a Japanese manga series written by Shinichi Sakamoto and Yoshiro Nobita, and illustrated by Sakamoto himself, based on a novel by Jiro Nita. The entire premise of this manga is based on a novel about the adventures of a real-life solo mountain climber, Kato Buntaro. I won't go into much detail because this isn't meant to be a history lesson, but long story short, this man climbed a lot of mountains alone. And you'll really get a sense of how dangerous that is and why climbing alone in these situations is such a detriment to your own life, and it's something else, man. The story. Mori Buntaro, our protagonist, transferred to a new school and in typical shonen fashion is bullied basically upon entering the classroom. Takes about 5 to 10 seconds upon him sitting down at his wonderful protagonist window-side seat before the class bully, Miyamoto, which we'll call him Gorilla, grabs his shoulder from behind with an iron grip. This obviously pisses Mori off, and by second period, he's already skipping class to escape, which he does so on the roof, because of course he does. Where else is he gonna go? Gorilla fakes a stomach ache in the middle of class, and promptly heads to the roof to look for our new transfer student. Of course, if he used the stairs, this would be your typical high school setting, but no. Gorilla decides to casually scale the outside of the building like it's a perfectly normal occurrence, catching Mori completely off guard. Understandably, it would have scared the shit out of me too. More teasing happens, and Gorilla offers Mori a choice. Scale the school building, and he'll leave him alone. Totally fair, right? Just showed up at the school, just transferred, don't know anyone, just climbing outside of a building, that's fine, put my life in danger. Totally normal, nothing weird about that. Now, Gorilla's an idiot, because no one would actually take that challenge and scale an entire school building on their first day. That would be shonen levels of stupid. So he scales the building, scales it completely alone, and makes a pretty ridiculous jump, especially for someone with no prior training. Not something I really thought about when reading, but the manga kind of taught me a lot, and yeah, that jump was ludicrous, and he shouldn't have been able to do that. Now, of course, basically the whole school sees this from the windows of the classrooms, and a teacher quickly rushes to the roof after Mori makes it to the top. The teacher, Unishi-sensei, who we'll call best character, upon getting to the roof, slaps Mori for his recklessness that could have gotten him killed, and rightfully so. Like, he had every right to be mad. That was a very risky move for this man to pull. However, he then immediately pulls a 180 and asks Mori if he enjoyed the sensation, that jump and the euphoria shooting through him as his arm actually caught the ledge, and if he hadn't caught it, he would have just straight up died. So yeah, that'll definitely put some adrenaline and blood pumping through your body. And hear me out here. I believe this is how the manga sort of managed to draw me in to binge 170 chapters in roughly 6 to 8 hours, maybe less. Everyone can understand the feeling you get when adrenaline is pumping after an exciting or extremely dangerous moment in their life. Like, everyone's had an adrenaline rush. It's a hell of a thing. Now, this extreme euphoria you get at these moments as your body shoots dopamine into your brain like some weird scientist trying to rewrite your neural code is highly addictive. And that feeling you get is it's not like anything else. And so that's kind of the vehicle that this manga takes for pretty much the rest of its entirety, is this addictive sensation of feeling alive. Go, 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 go. Now, from this moment on, we begin the transition from Mori, the extremely gloomy-looking loner, into Mori, the slightly less gloomy-looking loner. Best character, being the best character he is, places himself into this young man's life. However, Mori, being the loner he is, doesn't really appreciate it, but agrees that he enjoys climbing and takes it upon himself to try to climb the conveniently placed mountain that can be seen from the school. Of course, with no experience, knowledge, technique, skill, body mass, or even something as simple as a spotter, he doesn't manage much and only really destroys his fingers as he tries to get that rush he got before. Best character catches wind of his crazy stunt and comes to find him with his bloody hands and torn sneakers, and after reprimanding him, again for solo climbing, he then offers to go buy him new shoes because he won't be able to climb in sneakers. And this is where we start to transition and learn about best character, the fact that not only is he a very good teacher, he is also a devout mountain climber, and there's a competition coming up. I mean, this is all very shonen. I'll just say it now. It is extremely shonen at the beginning, and it slowly transitions into this psychological thriller in a way, with a few ridiculous aspects sprinkled here and there. Now, of course, I've been skipping over details and stuff here and there. There's a few ridiculous aspects, but I mean, they're all, again, grounded in reality. Like, he shadow climbs or maps out a route and all these things that seem extremely ridiculous, especially for somebody that's just now learning about rock climbing. It is very much a shonen trope-filled kind of mess at the start. Not necessarily in a bad way, but I mean, it is a little dated. This was written in 2007 and ran serialization until 2012, totaling 17 volumes. But after the trope-filled mess, it slowly transitions into a beautiful story about this man finding himself, and it delves so much into this man's psychology of why he is the way he is, why is he addicted to this feeling, and as people push him away or he pushes people away, like the relationships he builds or doesn't build, really. And this manga is not afraid of skipping around. You will jump several years at a time and suddenly be looking at this character, and you can kind of understand what he's went through visually, and then with the situations he's in or where he's working or what he's doing, like, you can see this man's dedication to what he's doing. And if this is how the real person was, it's damn impressive how much hard work it takes him to reach his goals and move forward. A sort of centerpiece for the entire manga is this man accomplishing all these feats alone, climbing all these mountains, and the road that takes him there, and the roads he opens up for himself by not giving up or by going by himself, because most people run in teams of 2. One person stays below you with a rope going up to a point in the wall through a carabiner, and then running through that point to the climber scaling the wall through another carabiner. This doesn't stop you from falling. However, it ensures that if you do fall, your partner can slow or stop your descent so that you can be left unhurt or even just continue the climb. It keeps you from falling 20 feet and slamming onto your back onto the hard ground, so you can safely do what you enjoy. There's really not a ton of downsides to having another person other than you have to keep each other, you have to trust each other if you're climbing together. That's really the biggest issue, is trust in this manga. This is really the centerpiece to Mori's character. He's troubled and sees himself as a huge burden to anyone he gets involved with, which of course comes from a tragedy in his past, which is explained upon later, but I'm really not here to break down the entire story, because there's no dialogue a lot of the time. So sometimes you're scrolling through an almost entire chapter of just beautiful imagery of these people climbing these mountains and risking their life, going through all this hellish shit for no reason. For the most part, a lot of characters choose their own fates in this manga. And really, at the end of the day, it's just about Mori's journey to do what he loves. He finds something he loves, he gets lucky and continues from there, and he manages to survive and keep doing it for as long as he can. And really, that's the underlying message here, is that you will have to work hard. There will be people that will try to knock you down because maybe you're better than them, or they just think that you think they're better than them. There's tons of misunderstandings in real life and in this manga, and people just being assholes, and you'll run into that in your life a lot. It's hard to put all this into words, really. But this manga is just a very beautiful piece of art, honestly, of this man's story. I feel like I'm just rambling on and on about the same thing, but there's not really too much more to say without just spoiling the manga, because there's not a ton of, there's a ton of story going on. There's a ton of moving pieces for the most part. This is in one piece, clearly. But if this sounds like something you might enjoy, I definitely recommend you check it out. It's a short read. It doesn't take much time to get through, and honestly, it was extremely worth it. I happened to just run across a single image online and just started from there. It's just like, oh, okay, someone said this is good. That image looks cool. It's a buff dude holding a rock. Like, I can get behind that. And then I just kind of kept going. Was a little thrown off at the beginning because it's a little weird, and again, it's a little ridiculous, and there's just a mountain outside their school and all this other stuff, but it's clear that the person that wrote this knows what the hell they're talking about. And that's always just so nice when I read a manga, because it's clear that the person writing it absolutely loves the things he's talking about. I hope you got some enjoyment out of this, and I hope maybe some people actually check out the manga because of this. And if not, I'm sorry, I'm not good at explaining things, but you definitely should check out the manga.
Ready, boys?